Good morning, stampers and crafters. Welcome to Tina's Crafty Ink Spot. I'm Tina. I have a technique for you today. It's older. It's been around a long time, and it's called Joseph's coat. Basically, Joseph's coat means dappled color. And what I did find is beyond the traditional way to do it, there's a lot of other ways you can use this technique that comes out with some amazing results. So what I want to show you is the traditional way is that you'll dapple your color and use a black background. It looks wonderful. It's so cool. So I can show you that. I'm also going to show you how you can use your designer series paper to do this technique. I love the way this turned out using just designer series paper. So that opens up an entire gambit of ideas with all your designer papers that are out there. Each of these that I'll do and the samples that I show, I will have all the supplies listed for you. Now I'm also going to show you how you can take the technique and create images that you can die cut. This was a lot of fun to do using our Gather Together set. Now, when I did it here, it worked filling in the black of the image. But here, I'm going to show you how you can use your stamp to make a solid image. When you're doing this technique, you kind of want to use stamps with a larger solid image space on it. You can still use it where you do words and so forth. This I did. There is designer series paper underneath, and I just stamped my images, and instead of the traditional black background, I used a blue. So you can even get as intricate. This is one of my foil designer papers that I stamped my images on and then did my black background. It just, everything changes. It's a fun technique, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So what I want to do is just show you a couple of ways that you can do these techniques. So on the first one of my team members has requested this, Catherine, and she's the one that sent me an image of a beautiful, beautiful card, and I will include them in this post where she used this technique. Well, then I decided I wanted to try the technique on designer paper. So I'm going to show you how I did this leaf here on designer paper. So what I did is I took a piece of designer paper. This paper here is, I got the name of it. It is, I believe, Plaids, Playful Plaids designer paper. So there's all kinds of different designs. So what I did is I used my my stitch shapes, and I cut out a stitch square. Just that simple. Let me bring in a piece of paper here, keep our workspace clean. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring our Gather Together, and I'm just going to take this leaf here. I'll just use a block. I have my Stamparatus, but I really don't need it for this one image. I always kind of wipe and clean my photopolymer before I use them because it kind of helps make the backside a little bit tackier. You know, they tend to get kind of dusty, so I just kind of wipe them clean, and that way they stick well to my blocks or to my Stamparatus. So I want to use, when you do this technique in any form that I'm going to show you, try to remember to use your embossing buddy, because you're not going to want embossing powder where, you know, on areas you don't want, or when you go to fill in your solid color, you're going to have gaps. So I'm just going to wipe this a little bit with my embossing buddy. And got our Versamark. let's stamp our image. I always leave my stamp down, add some pressure, leave it down for just a second, and that helps transfer your inks, no matter what you're using. So now you want to bring in your clear embossing powder. Now, there is a way you can use whites or anything like that, but you want your image, your design to show underneath. So we're just going to use some clear embossing powder here. And when you're doing this technique, try not to get your fingers on there very much, because the oils when you're embossing can transfer from your fingers and cause an issue with what you're embossing. So it's just a little FYI. So we're just going to cover this with clear embossing powder. And since this is a small piece of paper and I don't really want to burn my fingers, I'm just going to hold it with my tweezers and let's heat set it. I always like to let my heat gun warm up just a little. Don't you just love heat embossing? That is what got me hooked on stamping, was heat embossing. I just love to watch it as it transforms and melts. And you'll be able to see in the light, you'll see it turn shiny. Want to make sure you have your... And there we go. Now, like I said, with this technique, you can do black background or you can do different colors. On this one, we're going to do a black background, but I'm going to show you how I created the frame. So what I have is, I use this tape in my craft room all the time, and it's Delicate Surface masking tape by 3M. And by being delicate surface, when you peel it off, it doesn't damage your paper. So what I'm going to do is, on the stitch square here, you can see the stitches there. So that's going to help me make straight lines. So I'm just going to add the tape right on the stitches there. Also helps you make it even lines, straight lines. We're just going to frame this out. This is tough tape, surprisingly. It's hard to peel, but it's hard for me to use my hand too. But and I apologize for the glove. It helps me be able to use my hand. So I'm going to do this one with the traditional black. If you didn't want to use the black, you could pick a color. I see my tape is a little uneven right there, so I'm going to fix that. There we go. So you can use the traditional black background, or you could pick a color in here if you wanted. But we're going to do the traditional black. And there's a couple ways you can do that. So take your black, you can use a brayer, which is a lot less messy. And I have a brayer that's dedicated to just black. And you're just going to go over your image. And you see how that could take you just a little bit of time. You can use a sponge, your sponges or your daubers, anything you want to transfer the black here. Or you can take your ink pad and just kind of drag it over your image. And kind of twisting it a little, getting the ink to transfer there. Now, if you don't like ink on your hands, this is a technique that you'll want to wear little rubber gloves or something. Me getting ink on my hands just seems normal, so it washes off. It's not a big thing. And at the end of the day, when I wash all the ink off my hands, and I know I was at least doing something. Okay, so now you've got your black transferred. And then you're just going to take a clean cloth, and all I use is simply a Kleenex. It's soft and gentle. And then you're just going to go over your image. So basically all Joseph's Coat is a form of emboss resist. So this is exactly what this is emboss resist. So when you wipe it off, your image appears, and you can see any areas that you may have missed some black. So just go over it a little bit, and it gets it down there in the grooves real well. And I'm just going to take my little soft cloth again. Let me wipe my hands off a little here. Look at that. Isn't that fun? Okay, now what we did is we created that frame. So now we're just going to gently. Now if you don't have this delicate surface tape, they have it in purple and blue. And that's the way you'll know it's a delicate painter's tape. So one of the tricks is to try to peel it a little bit at an angle. Or if it's really sticky, take your heat tool and heat it up just a little bit and then peel. And what that does when you use your heat tool is it loosens the glue. But this is really delicate tape, so it just comes right off really simply. So let me get this off and you'll see how this turned out. And I just thought with the designer paper, it just looks so neat. And I always have scraps of designer paper. So you can also, do your images and die cut them. Because this set right here, Gathered Together, has the die cut for this leaf. And look at there. Isn't that pretty? And simple. Super simple. So now I'm going to show you. And then you would just, all I did is, I'm trying to get into the groove of these slimline cards. I'm kind of behind the game here. They're all the rage right now. And I really like the way this turned out. So you could just do the same here. Okay, I actually like this orange leaf better. Oh, like that. Okay, so next. Now the next way I'm going to show you is, now this this technique works best with larger images that are solid. Well, I wanted to make this Gathered Together leaf, and it's not a solid image, but I'm going to show you how you can make a solid image out of it. And then you can die cut it and use your leaves, or leave it as is. So let's go ahead and get our background ready. So we're going to let's take some nice colorful colors. So let's use some pumpkin pie, some bumblebee yellow, and I like this nice bright green apple green, and for just some fun contrast, we're going to bring in some tempting turquoise. So let's go ahead and get those open. Now the traditional way of doing this technique is to start out exactly like this, where we're going to create our background. Now I'm going to start with my lightest color, which is the bumblebee yellow, and you're going to add just random color areas with the different inks. And I like to do them nice and dark. Okay, I'm going to bring in my next color, which is pumpkin pie. And what's really fun is you'll see where your colors meet that you're going to come up with a secondary color, which is really fun. Especially when you start adding, some blues in there that turn the different colors green and that sort of thing. So I'm going to add some nice orange there. Now let's bring some granny apple green. As you can see, this is a very quick technique. And you can do as much or as little as you'd like. Your dappling color. Okay, let's add some green there. Been doing this technique so much, I think my ink pads, some of them need to be re-inked. Okay, now I did want to bring in some tempting turquoise for some really nice contrast. Now see how the tempting turquoise changes the other colors? It's a nice secondary surprise. Just add some random areas. And this is basically what you're going to have no matter how you do the technique, is you need your base piece with your multiple colors. Okay, there we go. Let's close these up. Now what I'm going to use this piece for is for the leaves I want to create, or any images that you want to create and die cut. So I want to go ahead and just let's stick with our theme of the leaf here. Clean it off real well. Now especially clean the main side of your stamp. I use a damp baby wipe because it'll help it stick better. So I'm going to bring in the Stamparatus. And don't forget this important step of your embossing buddy. Because your ink will tend to grab the embossing powder. So I want to try to get at least a couple leaves out of this piece. I could do more. You could take some other images and use them. So I'm going to lay this. This is with the back side of my stamp to the paper. Okay. And then we'll pick it up. I'm going to use our Versamark. Ink it up real well with your Versamark. Now it's a little hard to see Versamark, but if you tilt your paper, you can always see where your image is. So I'm going to try to do one more. Let's fit it on here. I didn't do it well where I could fit it on there. So let's just do our one. I should have moved that over a little or had a bigger piece. So let's just do it this way. And you could add some other leaves. So let's just do one that we don't need to double stamp. I don't want to waste my image there. So let's grab a leaf and add it on there. So I'm just going to add a regular leaf here. And this one's got enough solid surface on it that you don't have to flip it like I did the photopolymer. Let's stamp that one there. Look looks like we got it good. Now let's add our, move this out of the way. Let's add our clear embossing powder. Looks like we got them pretty good there, including our solid image. You can kind of see when you have embossing powder where it doesn't belong. You can just wipe it off a little bit. But since we're going to be die cutting these, it's okay. So let's heat set this. Trying to tilt it in the light so I can see where my embossing powder is melting. There we go, I think we got it. So now, you can die cut them just like this if you want to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my black at least over this leaf that we did so that the inside and the edges will get some black on them. But first, I want to add my lines to this one, or you just have a regular solid leaf. And what you do is you take your stamp, and now the correct side of the stamp, you just line up on your solid. I can see what I'm doing here. So you want to line that up on the solid. And you can either heat emboss like I did here. I did gold. I just added gold to my solid image. Or you can just use StazOn. What I'm going to do, I think we'll just use StazOn on this one to save a little bit of time. But you get the gist, how to create a solid image out of one that is not a solid image. So we're just going to add our StazOn stamp on there. Oh, okay, I need to restamp that, which is okay. A lot of times because the Versamark is tacky. Hopefully that didn't move too much. Oh, it did move. But you get the gist of what I was talking about. So you would just die cut that. But this one, I don't want my StazOn. I want my memento. And I'm going to grab a black dauber. And I'm just going to go over that leaf so that it'll bring out the accents of color around it. And see how it gets down inside the cracks there. And you created a leaf you can die cut. Now this one, you can see where my stamp moved, but we can also go around the edges of that one just to give our outline. And if you do like I did, I'll show you a quick trick here. If you have a Sharpie, Sharpies are permanent ink, you can actually just correct your lines with your Sharpie pen. You can see where they are. And problem fixed. Okay. Should just go over it a little bit there. So Sharpies are permanent ink, so they work well. And we saved it. And our lines. And problem averted. And now this one, remember, we've got to wipe off to make it shine, or to make it bold. You do the same there. And now let's go die cut these leaves real quick, and you're going to see how really pretty they are. Grab our snips, and it's an easy cut, easy to cut out. Now if you want stronger accents on that one, just take your black and go along the edges. And it gives a more defined look. Do your emboss resist, remove the ink off the embossing. And you have another beautifully colored leaf. Isn't that pretty? So that's just another way you can use it. You can actually create your multicolored leaves. Use your regular stamps to make a solid image. Okay, so now let's do the technique as it's actually designed. So let me move this out of the way here. And I'm going to take a regular piece of Whisper White. And know that you can do anything with this. So if you don't want a dark black background, use just something dark that's going to bring out the accents of your image. The black really does kind of make it stand out, but let's do this. Let's create one. Let's use some bright colors. Let's bring in some tempting turquoise. And how about some magenta madness, which I just absolutely love this color. And of course our granny apple green. We're just going to make some really bright colors here. So I want to start with my lightest color, which is going to be my granny apple green. And let's do our spots. My granny apple green is low on ink. I guess what I can do is I can show you how to re-ink a pad real quick. Let's see, where's my granny apple? Sorry, that's my puppy in the background playing with her toy. So you have your re-inkers. This is how I re-ink my pads. I add a couple random drops. And then I just use the tip of my inker to just spread it into the pad. It's that simple. I got some ink on there. So there we go. So now, add some more of a green. Oh, there we go. Yeah, nice and bright. Okay, let's go in with some magenta madness. I just love this pink. It's so bold. And remember, you'll get a secondary color when it goes into the other one. Okay, now let's bring in our tempting turquoise, which is just going to really set this off. Because tempting turquoise is going to mix with the two of them. With the pink, it gives you a little bit of a purple. With the green, it gives you a little more of a additional turquoise, deeper turquoise. Like it mixed with that magenta, gives you a nice purple. So now we're ready. Doesn't look like much. Now if you were going to do this technique in reverse, you could actually stamp your images in white on this, just as it is, and then you have your white image with your dappled color on the background. But we're going to do it the traditional way, and I'm going to bring in these beautiful dragonflies from the Dragonfly Garden that'll be coming to you soon. If you are a demonstrator, you can, and you were part of On Stage, you were able to order this one. On Stage is a annual, or it's actually biannual event that Stampin' Up! Has for demonstrators, and it's a great deal of fun. If you're interested in how to become a demonstrator and the perks of being a demonstrator, we get to order early, we get discounts on every order we do. There's a lot of perks to it. And who doesn't like to buy stamping supplies at a discount? Okay, so we're going to take our dragonfly. Don't forget, embossing buddy. So we're going to take our dragonfly, and we're going to stamp him randomly all over our sheet here. And if you look at your sheet at an angle, you can kind of see where you've stamped. You'll see the shiny of the Versamark. I'm just going to stamp it in random directions all over. And then I'm going to do a couple just to fill in some spots. So I just kind of wanted a collage of dragonflies. Let's add a little bit there. I think we pretty well got that. So let's set that aside. Now we'll bring in our clear embossing. Now this doesn't look like much right now, but just wait. It's so pretty. Brush off any areas where you don't want your powder, because you'll be able to see where your images are once you add this powder now. A nice coating of it on there. I had a couple little areas where my edge of my stamp hit, I could see. So let's heat set that. Okay, doesn't look like much now, but watch this. This is just magic to me, the way it just transforms your piece. I'm going to do it the quick way, which is where I drag my ink on. I just kind of twist it a little and transfer that ink. Looks like I didn't use my embossing buddy as well as I would have liked. I have a little bit of, it's kind of hard to see. See where I had too much, the embossing powder I didn't tap off well enough? That's okay. Show you how to fix it. So now we'll take our clean tissue, wipe off my hands a little here, and bring out the images. Look how bright and bold those are. Now again, you can die cut these if you wanted. I had some areas where my clear emboss was on the sheet. I should have taken a little bit more time to wipe it off, but remember what I told you? Take a Sharpie, it'll cover that area, it'll cover those areas. See what I mean? So you can just touch it up with your black. And there you go. Look how bold and beautiful those are. What a fun technique, huh? See if you can see. That is basically Joseph's coat. So what I did with that one was I created this guy. Now I had added some other solid image in there before I covered it in black. And that's what you come up with. That is basically Joseph's coat. So you can do it with the black backgrounds. You can pick any darker part of the image, because that way it's just going to bring up your dappled color below, which is what Joseph coats means. You can use designer series paper and come up with these. You can use all types. Now, this foiled designer series paper did its own emboss resist. This is normally a white background designer series paper, which I will have in the supplies below, but look how pretty that came out. Okay, so just have fun with it. Do the different colors of the background, do different stamps, do words, just have fun with it. So, and this one we did the reverse, so we stamped our leaves in Versamark and stamped them, with the clear, and then did our dappled color using the white as the resist. So you come up with a reversed Joseph coat. So there it is, everybody. I hope you had fun today, and I hope to be doing some more videos soon. It's been a while. It's still a little hard, but I hope you enjoyed today's blog hop, and you have a happy stampin' day. Bye-bye.